Okay, you're here with Uncle Don again. We're going to talk about when you first get the schizophrenia and you first start hearing voices and you first start talking back to it. When this first happened for me, I had the belief I was talking to members of my family who weren't around. Like, they weren't dead, but they weren't in there. And I was talking to them out loud, even though I could only hear their voices in my mind. I was asked by a psychiatrist at one stage. They said to me, "Are you hearing voices inside your mind or outside your mind?" And I thought it was hard. It was a hard question to answer, because although I knew those people weren't there, I could hear their voices and identify who the voices were. It was hard. It was that point that I felt sort of like a stutter happening in my brain, trying to differentiate between the disease and reality. It was very hard to try and talk about it, because I think in our minds, or our brains telling us it's real, but our brains telling us it's not real. That thing I was telling you about forwards and backwards, you've got one going clockwise, the other going anti-clockwise, and it's building friction. Interesting for concerning philosophy about the where we have a blamer, a victim, and a mediator. That's that triangle. That was a seminar I attended at one point when I was studying to be. It was something about retail sales I had to do for Centrelink. It was Social Security then, that long ago. So yeah, I was actually. It was funny. I was going into the to do the course because I wanted to be a better drug dealer. That was the whole thing about that course. And Centrelink wanted me to do something, so I thought, oh yeah, I'll do that, because I know I will learn how to sell drugs better. But yeah, I did that course, and I found out a few different things. Was pathways to something, but we had to go horse riding or team building, and they picked us off a few people at the end of it to go for a job interview. So I don't know, it was probably some sponsored thing, but the point I'm getting at is that with the schizophrenia, we have the problem trying to differentiate between what's real, like reality, and because it sounds like those people are really there. I mean, in your brain, those people's there. They're talking to us. So we get this idea that we have a special gift. That's one of the questions the shrink will ask us about. Is about, do you think you've got a special gift? Do you think you've got ESP? Is somebody stealing your thoughts? Which is, it's common delusions, like little things what we kind of get pick kind of little things about the illness or the disease that we go through often. It's like you think of something and you stutter. It's like a stutter in your brain, and before you know it, you've forgotten what you said, and it's like a very easy to get into this delusion that somebody is stealing your thoughts. Then there's the other part of it where your brain may be reacting, maybe the disease is kind of hard to explain because I've got like about 10,000 different ways I can put it, and I've only got to pick one. And it's like, wow. But anyway, what I'm saying is that this disease can come through into your brain where you don't actually hear a voice. It's like a thought, and you're thinking to yourself. You can also hear your own voice talking back to you. It's a disease that if you're not careful about the way you analyse it, you could end up thinking that that you're more than a person, like you're some kind of I don't know what, some kind of like a guru or something like that. I'm not sure how you would put that, but yeah. In the first stages of schizophrenia, when I heard somebody's voice talking to me, it was like, how did that person get here? Almost like, how did you get here? You don't live here? What's going on? Because it was a voice that I knew. And it's usually always, schizophrenia is always voices we know, and we put these voices into we process them directly relative to the experience we've had with those people. I think it's almost like these voices are playing out the roles in our idle mind while you're not active or doing something, while your mind is idle. You're just sort of mulling over the day, or you're not even thinking about anything or watching TV or anything. It's like it's going all the time, and a lot of the time, if it's getting like if it's making us aggressive, it's because we're inactive, and our body is, I think it's our body is like it's calling out to be active. We need to be doing something. We need to be getting some exercise. We need to be communicating with other people. We need to be doing things. A lot of the time, if we spend enough time being idle, our body will be trying to motivate us to do these things, and this voice is probably your brain. It's probably my brain. A lot of the time I still get annoyed with people around me because I can hear their voices in my head, and I become delusional. And I have got out of the habit of, although I never really slipped into it that badly, but it's easy to slip into the habit of and this is where the psychosis slips in, of making the people around you responsible for your illness. In other words, saying that they are talking to you in your mind, in your imagination. You're imagining we imagine that they are communicating with us through the walls, through the roof, through the floor, through the cupboards, from the other room, and it's even, your brain will even tell you, because you want reality. My brain will even tell me that the sound is muffled because they're talking to me through the walls or the roof or the floor, and it's a disease, and it's based on what your brain can do and what your body needs to do, how your body's working. On the early stages of it, I didn't analyse it that much. I just sort of went along with it. I did what it asked me to do. I had to become analytical about it, because what it was telling me to do was like find a sacrifice. I had to kill a snake, and it was like kill a snake. What? And so I went looking around the neighbourhood for a snake with a garden fork, and I was going to kill the snake with a. That's like how the police didn't pick me up, I don't know. But yeah, just a dude covered in tattoos walking around with a garden fork. I guess it's not that unusual. But yeah, it was not a very. Although I know for a fact I wouldn't have taken to a person with a garden fork, there was that thing where there may have been somebody's snake was out sunbaking in the yard, and it could have been in the wrong place at the wrong time. And if I had decided that was the snake that I was going to have, but you see, that's analytical about that, and see that we can employ religion in that, and we can employ religion in that, and use it as an attack on that by saying that Jesus is the sacrifice you got. If you think he's a snake, that's up to you, but that's the sacrifice I've got, and let that association deal with it. And in the Bible, there's things about people hearing voices from the Bible. It's in the book of Revelations, it comes up with a voice from heaven said, and there's Moses in the burning bush. There's a number of different places in the Bible where people have heard voices they couldn't explain, and I think that when I had an experience with magic, I was hearing a voice, and there was other people involved in that, but they didn't expose what that voice was or who it was. But that's the sort of thing what I was talking about before, about the majority of people, probably all people, don't really talk about those things openly with anyone. I guess it's a bit of an initiate sort of a thing in magic of sorts, where the initiate is wowed by all these presences, and we're supposed to stems from all sorts of things what I've read up about and studied about, but the main thing that we can control is, because we're not going to be able to control magic or use it to manipulate people or places or things or that, although you may fool yourself into thinking that, and you may want to believe that, and you may go on to you may become delusional and think that you're able to put thoughts in people's heads, read people's minds, but these are all intuitive actions that it's normal, everybody's got them, but you can get carried away with them or meditate with them and become extra sensory perceptive in that sense. But as far as like saying something can't be done and saying something can be done, it's like I was talking about before you, but that it's can and can't, and then you've got the mediator in between that's saying, there's people who've said they can. That's not, well, am I going to stand there and become an accuser and say you can't? Then I get that. It's like, well, if you can, tell me about it, because I think it would be interesting to see how that works for you. Not that I would laugh if it did in actual fact happen that way continually, a lot beyond any doubt. But yeah, there's always that chance the 50 to 1 shot comes up. If you're going to put $1 on it, good luck. But yeah, so far as having schizophrenia goes, pretty much it's a long shot that you're going to, if you don't hear voices, that you are going to hear voices. Chances are you probably won't. So that's probably about the gift that someone with schizophrenia has. You can hear people that aren't there. I mean, how gifted is that in the way of being able to inspiration for all different sorts of things. There for songs, poetry, music. There's so many different ways that you can tap into that when John Bradshaw, the Bradshaw tapes, is some tapes I watched in pretty early recovery. It was about the time I was doing a step 4 in a anonymous group process, the 12-step recovery program, and I was about a year into recovery on the first attempt, 1998 or so, and it was a good experience. Of John Bradshaw tapes, they're pretty old. There's a lot of other stuff that's touches on the same stuff, but we didn't have the net. Well, I didn't have the net back then. So yeah, having schizophrenia and this gift of these voices, it can get monotonous, and it's annoying, and I can be seen moody. We will seem like we're people who are loners. We prefer our own space. We don't like to be bothered. I think it's because a lot of the time you're hearing people in your head all the time, and it's just like, look, I couldn't be bothered with people anymore. And I think that sort of leads to a sort of depression as well. It's like we need to convince ourselves pretty regularly that the voices we're hearing in our heads aren't real people. And it sometimes, if you're bored, it might just happen automatically. You get bored and you automatically go along with these voices in your head like they're people, because think, well, what else is there to do? Who else is there to talk to? Right? I mean, after 20 years of having schizophrenia, it's like at times you don't get along with people. I don't get along with. I couldn't be bothered with people. Quite honest with them, I've got enough hassles with the voices in my head without actually other people being here as well. That's like, why would you bother? It can distract. They can, having a lot of people around can distract you, but at the same time, there's a whole lot of other stuff going on with in group situations. I guess it works in the mental institutions. Having put myself in an institution a long time ago, in 1980, 86, 87. I used to get locked up all the time because I was drunk on the weekends. The cops would grab me and they'd lock me up. It was the stage I was going through there. I was in the lock-up all the time. and I used to get put in a lockup, and so I could get a feed and a bed for the night. And the cops worked out I was doing it, so 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 they didn't give me any blankets, and then they wouldn't feed me, and I'd only get a Vegemite sandwich, and yeah, that worked out. I was on a scam. Having the early onsets of schizophrenia, I guess that's the roots of it. Was being alone in the world and not having anybody to turn to for so long. I think it was like so many times people just push other people away, and they don't. Well, people like myself get used to it, and I guess maybe our brains makes up people for us to relate to, or makes up stuff for us to deal with, because why should we be any different to anybody else in our solitude? But what I think triggers the psychotic episodes in the first place, I had like I said, I was trying to kill this snake, and I used to smoke weed all the time. Maybe I would smoke it non-stop if I could, but I would pace myself the majority of the time, but I would have more some days, and rarely less others. But I used to drink alcohol as well, and it was for the effect. And when I would have withdrawals, because I smoked cigarettes as well, and when I found that when I would go through withdrawals, especially from cigarettes, I've found that I would crave, and I would become edgy, and I couldn't sit still, and I would want to go for a walk or do something. And similar with weed, if I had no weed, I would get edgy too. It's only so long you can sit around smoking smokes, and you smoke all your smokes, and you have to go and look for cigarette butts. And I found that this depression and this power over these addictions, they sort of brought on the psychosis, because I needed to do something to. I was motivated to satisfy those cravings for alcohol, weed, and mostly cigarettes. Tobacco was the worst one, I think, because it was like I get to the stage where it's like, I can't, I have to go and get a smoke from somewhere, and yeah. So I think that's one of the worst for somebody with a mental illness, especially like one where we have like bipolar or psychosis or something. Once you begin to smoke and you can't get that nicotine fix, you can get very aggravated. And I think there wasn't so many pokies around when I was having my early addiction, but yeah, gambling can be a similar thing, because it's gambling is a you get a bit of a high for when you have a win. So yeah, they were I can tell you about the trouble things to watch out for, but I also need to help other people who may be around somebody who's just been recently diagnosed with schizophrenia. They got that's because it's important to recognise when it's developing, before somebody gets to a delusional state. Like ice. I used to do ice or meth pretty regularly, and over the years, since I was 15, I've been using it. So I used it. I used it just whenever I could, basically. At one stage, I had a stack of money from when my dad died, and he left us a stack of money when I was 18, 19. Well, he didn't leave me any, but he left a heap to my sister, and she gave me some money, and most of it went up my arm in drugs. And then I bought a house. I was trying, but the house just went as well. I swapped it for a bike, and because I wanted to get away from it, was just a big mental crash. And I can look back at that and regret it. It's okay, because the government in Australia has really kind of helped me get out of a death trap. I was destined for an early grave, for sure. After the things what people did to get rid of me out of their house or their home, and where the places where I had to stay, it was just like it was getting worse and worse and worse. It was getting worse and worse company. But something snapped. Something snapped, and but that wasn't early on. I want to try and stick with what happened early on to help people with being able to recognise when schizophrenia is getting them, and when it's developing, for people who are having it develop in them, and for people who recognise it developing in somebody else. So, one of the early things what happened is before psychotic episodes was drinking alcohol and ice. You could mix those two. It's just about every time it would cause a problem with me. I would end up giving somebody. I would end up fighting, and I would end up saying the wrong thing to somebody, and I would snap very easily. Would just shift like a bipolar. The mood would shift very quickly, and I think emergency service people will be experienced with that. If you wanted to get a few tips from people like who've dealt with people in emergency situations where people's been on meth and been drunk as well, and some kind of trauma. Because when you're fully stimulated like that, like meth does to you, and you can be really relaxed and mellow 1 minute, and cool, and then as soon as you have some of that, you shoot some of that up. It's like, yes, let's go, we're going, let's do it, and you want to get up and go, do whatever you can. But after that initial rush has gone, then you'll find that, and I found that this must have made some scars in my brain, because you use that much of it that sometimes my brain must get in a mode where it's like I'm on the drug still, but I'm not on it. And I think maybe that using amphetamines and sniffing glue and all that's damaged my brain, obviously, and the benzodiazepines. There's proof of that. There's scarring in my brain from that. But using these drugs like sniffing glue or paint or lighter fluid, that sort of thing, it can damage your brain, especially when you're young. It can damage the development of your brain, and that's where what schizophrenia is. It's your brain is working out ways to solve problems. It's what it does. It's what it's supposed to do. So yeah, if you start getting a buzz off of things, then using your brain to get a buzz, then it will most likely lead to problems in the future because you'll be getting the buzz. But you just wanna like now. I really want to get my point across, but I've got a few different ways I want to say it, and a few different scars that's stopping it from getting from the message from getting from here to there. It's going to go, oh, hang on, and we'll go here, there. No, I can't go that way. Well, we would have went that way, but there's a dead spot there. It doesn't quite all. You can't go from here to there without going, oh, hang on a minute, we'll go here, oh, hang on, we'll go back over here, back over there, back over there. All right, well, they finally get there to their destination. It's still they will still go there, but because of the excess, that it's damaged the road. So yeah, and they might be able to fix the potholes in the road, but it doesn't stop the potholes from still being there, because you just look under the surface and there's pretty much like out here probably looks normal, but underneath there's scars everywhere. You can probably see a few here. But seriously, the problem with trying to help someone with schizophrenia is going to be that they don't want you to tell them what they're going through. We're not going to want you to say what it's like if you don't have it. Well, if you got schizophrenia, someone with schizophrenia who's having an episode, they may not even be treating you like you're even there in the room with them, trying to help them. They'll may be on a totally different level, and it's because there are issues going on in our minds that we want to deal with, and when somebody's trying to distract us from those issues that we want to deal with, no matter how dysfunctional that may be, I mean, if you get down to the root cause of it and if you boil it right down, so it's if you just cut off all the excess pieces that's added on, well, it doesn't really sound like it makes sense. Like once the cloud's clear and you see the root issue, and then if it's calm and the issue can be more obvious, and you can help somebody to be able to deal with that issue. But in the heightened state, when somebody's trying to distract you from the issues that's going on in your mind, you're not going to be able to get your way in there. It's probably going to make the situation worse. But if you encourage someone to talk about it, what it is, go along with it a bit, sort of go along with it like it's a cloud you're floating along in it, like it's not really a magic carpet. It's more like a place where it's not really a magic carpet that's flying through the air. It's a place where you've gone and what's under your feet is something that's not normal. So you're in a place where everything's not unusual. So we're in a new position, to looking at things from a new perspective, and to try and get someone out of a violent reaction towards you. You're probably not going to want to try and change what they're thinking, but more so to go along with it and help the person to get it out in the open, what it is that's going on, and if they want your help, which they probably will, because everyone likes to talk about themselves. Here I am, I'm talking about myself. Everybody who's got issues loves to talk about themselves in some way, and whether you're an awesome footballer and kick 20 goals on Saturday, you're going to talk about that to your mates. It's like, oh, how's that goal I kicked against Watches? You know what I mean? It's the same. The issue is that I'm proud. So of what I kicked all them goals on Saturday. The same thing can be said for people with schizophrenia. We need to go onto that level where it's like, okay, you're proud. Okay, you feel strong. Okay, you feel persecuted. Okay, you feel like you're on your own. Okay, you feel like you will, if you have any counselling skills, you will be able to help somebody who's starting to have a psychotic episode. So yeah, I hope that's helped people who wants to help. And having schizophrenia, that when I realised that I was in a psychotic episode and that I wanted to finish myself off, I found that I really needed to remember something about the world, what I liked. There's a lot of beautiful places in the world. There's a lot of beautiful places in your neighbourhood. There's a lot of beautiful places for just a train ride, a bus ride away. There's where you can go and you can just listen to the birds, listen to the sea. You can treat your senses to something other than these voices in your head, and just let them talk if they want to talk, and try not to react to them, but trying to soak in just soak in the gift that this world has for us every day. That you can go out there if you need to smoke the garden. Guess what? The garden's full of things that'll burn. You can smoke them. You've got grass, you've got trees, you've got flowers, you've got plants. You can smoke any of those. You don't have to go to the shop and buy a $50 packet of smokes. There's that many plants out there, outside that you can smoke. So why are you smoking cigarettes? I don't know. But yeah, it's probably because you're hooked on nicotine. But you're going to want nicotine sooner or later. But yeah, hit whack on a patch or something. So yeah, and smoking's not good for you anyway. I wouldn't advise it. Not too much of it anyway. So yeah, there's a lot of things you can experience in the world that that will help to distract you from the frustration that this disease can cause. Was we're powerless to change it, and is what it is. So yeah, that's about it. So I think I've sort of done what I wanted to do for introducing people to what it's like to have a psychotic episode, and how they start, how people can help us get out of those psychotic well, not get out of those, but how they can help us with those. What else have I got? That's about all for now. I think next time I'm going to talk about. I think I'm going to talk about some of the hallucinations that I've had, and how these hallucinations can motivate us to learn stuff, especially online. It's like there's a limitless amount of information out there. How much of it's true or not, we don't know. But yeah, it's entertainment nonetheless. So I think we're going to talk about that next time, about hallucinations and the motivations that they can give us to find out more. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed this with Uncle Don. See ya.